Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 24th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. Check out the eye on our monster storm approaching the Pacific Northwest. It's bringing some gusty winds, some additional rainfall, and we'll dive into all these details here as we go through the video this morning. Taking a look at where we are right now, you can see the precipitation band moving up across some of western Oregon, approaching western Washington. Look at that low just spinning off the coastline there. And back here, we're watching for some convection, and some of these gusts could be convectively driven across western Washington, western Oregon, and eastern Washington, eastern Oregon as well. I'll show you more on that here in a moment. Now, taking a look at the National Weather Service page. So this it looks like a fruitcake. We got all kinds of colors out there. Lots going on. That's how you know it is active here across the Pacific Northwest. Much more active than virtually the entire rest of the country. We got even some high surf advisories out for the coastal area. So let's dive in and look a little bit closer. We got wind advisories up for all of western Washington. Saturated soils are in place, so we do have that potential for some downed trees, some power outages. We have high wind warnings there for the coastal areas. We got storm warnings. There's high surf advisories. We got winter storm warnings for the higher terrain of the Cascades. And this is for mainly above 4,000 feet, and it goes on in through, I believe, on the afternoon Tuesday. Yes, 4 p.m. Tuesday, 12 to 18 inches locally, higher amounts over the higher peaks. So also periods of wind east of the mountains as well. You see the wind advisory down there towards Connell and Pasco. That could be convectively driven here as we go through this evening. And some gusty winds will be following up in through tomorrow morning as well. Take a look here. The Storm Prediction Center even has a wind threat here with some of these convectively driven gusts here up towards Spokane, including Pendleton, and back down across eastern portions of Oregon. And if you look down here, they'll also talk about it a bit as well. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and do so. But yeah, occasional lightning is possible, even western Washington, western Oregon with some of this activity as well. So you might get some blowing dust out there. So take caution through this evening for eastern portions. Now, this is Portland National Weather Service. Gusty winds are expected. Some gusts, what is it? We're talking about 35, 45 for inland. But again, some of the ground is saturated up there. And I got to warn you that some of the models do have stronger gusts. But look at some of these winds for the Washington, Oregon coast as well. Well, up into the mid 60s. Look at Cannon Beach, 68 miles per hour. That could cause some issues as well. Wind advisories up and down the Willamette Valley. If you click on that, it'll show you gusts potentially to 50 miles per hour. So again, be prepared for this activity here. I'll show you the timing on the winds here in a moment. This is the forecast gust for southwest Oregon. Look at Medford 36, Siskiyou Summit 41. But look at some of the coastal areas. Gold Beach 56 miles per hour. Crater Lake gusting up into the 60s as well. Hazardous beach conditions here for the Oregon and Washington coast, especially tonight. And as we go on into tomorrow morning, look at large breaking waves, 23, 27 feet. And some areas even north, you're going to 32 feet. So be very careful. This claims lies every single year. Take a buddy with you. Know what you're doing. Know where you're headed out if you're going out to take pictures of this activity. Now, high winds expected here for eastern Oregon as well. Look at this gust to 65 miles per hour. So heads up. This goes all the way through Tuesday afternoon. And if you want a nice, affordable home weather station, click on the link down below to save 10% off. Great smartphone app. It's got a lightning detection system as well. Help support the channel. Now let's take a look at what is going on. So this is what we saw in the mid-level water vapor loop, and you can see the storm coming up our coastline and just carving itself out right off the coast. Big winds for the coastal areas, and there is that threat for some high winds here across the interior regions as well. We're still in a little bit of wondering on just how strong those winds are going to be. But the models have been going through kind of a late stage upgrade here, and I'll show you more on that here in a moment. But yeah, you can kind of see that low just curl up right off our coastline there. And it's a good thing that that storm will be weakening as it tracks towards the inland areas here, because otherwise that would be a huge blow that you would remember for decades. So if we take a look at 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, this is the European as of last night. You can clearly see the storm system moving across the area there. But then after that, we do get somewhat of a break. We're going to calm things down at least a little bit. Maybe a tiny bit of a system here moving to Southern California kind of gets cut off, and ridging kind of hanging with us off and on as we go through the upcoming week. And then maybe another system comes through the next weekend here. We'll worry about that later. Lots to talk about. But if we look at dynamic tropopause potential temperature, you can really see this storm forming. Look at that curl right up into the Pacific Northwest. Just a nice monstrous look there on the coastline. Very fun stuff. Now, taking a look at significant wave height, I do want to show you that these waves are ramping up with the arrival of this storm. Look at this. That's why there are high surf advisories out. Again, Vancouver Island, Washington Coast, Oregon Coast, all the way on in through the day, Tuesday. And then we start to relax things a little bit as we go through the upcoming week. Now, let's take a look at the simulated infrared satellite imagery. More fun stuff to look at. This is the high-resolution rapid refresh. Let me update this, the 14Z. It is running right now, but look at that. This is just a simulated look at what the storm will look like as it approaches the coastline later on in through tonight. But also, if I back this up, you can see some of these showers here. There is probably even a brief tornado potential with some of these storms coming in here. Some of the photographs and some of the soundings I were looking at would support that, potentially some rotation. And again, there's going to be lightning threat as we go through just after noon and on in through this evening for Western Oregon, Western Washington. Then these storms will be moving across eastern Washington and eastern Oregon, and that's why they had that wind threat out there, blowing dust potential as well with that. So taking a look at some of the wind speeds here. So let's take a look at the NAM, the North American model on the left versus the HRRR on the right. So here we are about 10 a.m. There's 11, 12. You see the winds picking up at the Oregon coast. There is 1, 2 o'clock. Some of these gusts start to come across some of the Willamette Valley into southwest Washington. And again, when these showers move over, you can kind of see that on the HRRR too. This hit and miss nature of some of these winds, convectively driven gusts could be getting down towards the surface there. And then we bring the bent back occlusion into the coastal areas. It's going to get really windy as we go through this evening and tonight for, as you can see, the Oregon coast, very windy up into southwest Washington. Some of these gusts could be exceeding 70, 75 miles per hour. And these storms do tend to pack some surprises as well. So there's probably going to be some very windy conditions for the coast. And look at what happens as we go just after midnight or towards midnight. Olympia 64, 62 for Seattle. The HRRR has 60. These are huge wind gusts here. And this is kind of an upgrade here over previous days. Willamette Valley showing up to the mid and upper 50s as well. So you really got to watch out and prepare for this. Even though that is not the official forecast, you need to prepare for these winds. And if it doesn't happen, that's a good thing. Now, if we take a look at the European, let's see what it says. The usually fairly conservative European and its wind speed. So again, 10 a.m., there's about 4 p.m. right there. And you can see the winds are roaring along the Oregon coast, starts to pick up across the Willamette Valley as we go through this afternoon. Southwest Washington, there's the bent back occlusion. But look at Seattle, 55, and it's kind of hit and miss there a little bit. Shows Everett at 47, but I would not take that as gospel. You can see there is the potential for 50 plus mile per hour gusts, which would cause tree damage with our saturated soils. 55, that's a big deal for Seattle. And look at these strong winds across the northwest interior. And again, the Willamette Valley, Oregon coast of the higher terrain. And then you get some gusts, 45, 50 plus here for eastern Washington as well. You got to really watch out for that. Once you get into these yellows, you're starting to go up over 50 miles per hour. You get some blowing dust, can drop the visibility to zero. And if we look at the European ensemble, look at this. It's really consolidated and showing some, the mean is already up towards 50 miles per hour as of last night. And again, you saw 55 was the latest control run on the European, and a lot of the ensemble members do support these strong gusts. And one thing I've noticed over the past years is that the European ensembles can be underdoing things a little bit there. So there's Astoria, very windy for the coast, good ensemble agreement. There's Tillamook, Oregon coast. Look at that. Ensemble number 50 has 80 miles per hour, but you see some gusts squarely up into the 60s. The ensemble mean is into the lower 60s as well. Now let's take a look at the arrival of this precipitation. Here we are right about there, and you saw that on the Doppler radar, the combination there. But as we go on into this afternoon, again, these could be spinning segments there. You could get some small hail. You could even see some funnel cloud action with this moving across the region, pushes up across western Washington, and then another round of thunderstorm potentially here as we go through this afternoon. That's about 4 p.m. right there. And then you really got to watch this across the Tri-Cities. There's Walla Walla, Pullman, and Lewiston out there. Some gusty winds up towards Spokane as this rolls across the region, down across Pendleton and some of eastern Oregon as well. These could be packing a windy punch as we go through this afternoon and evening. You see the mid-latitude cyclone spinning off the coastline here. Additional rounds of some strong showers and some very heavy rainfall locally for some areas. And you see the low kind of spinning up and moving just across maybe the Strait of Juan de Fuca here. And again, it's going to have a pretty good pressure gradient with it, as what the models have been showing. And again, what gets lost here is some of these convective gusts can be very surprising and very hit and miss, especially as we go through the evening tonight. So looking at lightning flash density potential, put this into motion, and here we go through this afternoon. You see that lightning potential with that first band of storms that moves through, and then as we go through this afternoon, it continues to show lightning potential west, Cascades, and moving across eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. That's when the wind threat would be. That's what the SPC is highlighted on today with that wind threat for eastern portions. So there's the roundup, convectively speaking anyway. Now, day one excessive rainfall outlook, again, with some very heavy rainfall off and on for some portions. They still have slide up for the Olympics, some of the coastal areas, and for some of the Cascades of Washington. And by the time we go to day two, finally we get a little bit of a break here, and we need it. We need to dry out a little bit before we get our next round of storms in here, and we'll see when that is to come. But 6 to 10 day, you can see kind of this mixed bag here, above normal a little bit as we go through the first period of March, and there's that mixed bag for 6 to 10 day as well. Now, this is a look at the extended forecast. This jumps one day at a time, and this is our storm system we're dealing with now. But then you see the ridging try to build up here and maybe, taking place. It won't preclude some of these weak systems from clipping us at times, but we're not looking at a hugely stormy period, immediately thereafter. That can change, but, we'll watch that closely. However, once we scroll out to about March 10th there, 11th, 12th, you see how this troughing sets up? So maybe we'll be in for a cooler than normal mid portion of March coming up here. And the model, the European Ensemble extended weeklies have been showing this for, at least for a couple weeks now that I've been checking. So, and it sniffed out that cold period in February pretty good as well. So heads up for that. And again, just a reminder, there's going to be, additional snowfall amounts, strong winds up there. And if you're out and about in the backcountry, go to avalanche.org and click and get yourself educated on what is coming out there. But yeah, interesting stuff. And what else to say here? Big storm. Here it goes. I don't know if I'm going to drop down towards the I-5 corridor today and try to intercept some of these, or if I'm going to stay around the Seattle Metro, or exactly what I'm going to do just yet, because I don't want to miss anything, that happens close by home here and whatnot. So I may just stick around, because I do want to see these strong winds roll through here if they do indeed materialize. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Otherwise, click like and subscribe. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys then.